What is going on, investors? Hopefully, you guys are having a great day out there. You're probably having a really good day if you're sitting at an Airbnb somewhere on vacation. And if you're not, they just reported Q2 earnings after the bell today, and we're going to go through them. This is ticker symbol ABNB. Now, during the regular session, the stock was actually up about 2%. In the after hours, we're seeing it trade off by about 4.5%. We'll talk about what this means from a stock price / technical analysis perspective here in a second. We'll talk about, early stage IPO companies. We can look at Coinbase as well. This thing rallied hard, came down, looks like it's trying to form a bottom. Same type of action that we're seeing with Airbnb. Okay, man, this thing went all the way up to $200 and something per share. We're all sitting down here at 140. Are we creating a bottom with Airbnb? We'll talk about that from a technical perspective as well. Now, we're going to get into the Q2 numbers as well. Now, obviously, difficult comps compared to last year. They just look phenomenal from the revenue, everything, profit, or in this case, losses. Everything looks great year over year. So the first thing that I want to take you to with Airbnb is the CFO does a nice job of giving us going back to 2019. We're going to look at nights and experience books, gross booking value, and also gross booking value per night. So we'll see here in the far right-hand column, this is our most recent quarter over here in Q2. We see 83.1 million. This is bookings through the platform. Obviously, compared to last year, it's just an just astronomical growth. But I think we can understand even quarter over quarter, just astronomical growth. Take a look back in 2019. Basically, we're almost exactly where we were back in Q2 of 2019 for Airbnb. So I think the questions you have to ask as an investor is, how much more room does Airbnb have to grow? Obviously, the travel business at some point, we hope at least, will get back to 2019 levels and likely exceed it. But how much more competition is out there for your dollar from a VRBO, from a traditional hotel standpoint, from a vacation home standpoint, the types of vacations that you want to take, those types of things? I think investors should be asking those questions because it looks like we're on track to get back to 2019 run rates, maybe even in Q3, Q4. Management, even during the guidance, really expressed very, very bullish. Q3 expected to be the strongest quarterly revenue on record. And so they're expecting Q3 to be absolutely fantastic over at Airbnb. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is from a gross booking value. Now, this is the total of money that Airbnb takes in, but this is not revenue because obviously they have to share this with the host and those types of things. This is why I compare Airbnb a little bit to actually eBay, because eBay is kind of the same thing. They have sellers, which in Airbnb's case could be a host, and eBay is just kind of in the middle there taking a fee. And so in terms of gross booking values, we're at $13.4 billion. Look, I showed you back in Q2 of 2019, we had almost an identical number of nights and experience books, and we're way over that on a gross booking value. Why is that? Because the average value per night went from 117 all the way up to 161, really the highest on record, at least over the last 2 years over at Airbnb. So we're seeing a little bit of price inflation over at Airbnb. How sustainable is that? I guess it depends on the economist that you talk to, but there was a lot of pent-up demand for travel. And I think people on the Airbnb platform, and certainly hotels and those types of things, realized they could jack up the prices because people hadn't gone on a vacation in a while, and they were far less price sensitive. So those are the two questions I would ask yourself if you want to invest in Airbnb. Number one, how can they continue to exponentially grow this nights and experiences? Okay, considering all the competition and those types of things. And how are they going to keep raising prices? Okay, and Airbnb is not necessarily responsible for the prices. It's really the hosts that are using the platform. But how can that maintain? Can we keep price inflation there as well? I think it depends on who you ask. And the reason why we're asking these questions is, guys, Airbnb's got a $90 billion valuation. And the other thing that I want to show you here is I pulled up a chart. This is a price to sales. Now, these companies, some of them make money, some of them don't. Obviously, some of them are early stage like Airbnb, but a sale is a sale, in my opinion, at these places. Now, I put up TripAdvisor on here, and I put up Expedia as well. Those are the two close cousins to Airbnb. I think one of them even owns the VRBO property, which is pretty much a direct competitor to Airbnb. Obviously, there's hotels hotels and those types of things. But basically, these are platforms that allow either hotel owners or property owners or vacation home owners to list their properties on the site, and these sites take a percentage of the sale. And I also threw on eBay here because that's exactly like eBay's business as well. And all these guys are pretty much all pure play. I mean, I don't think you can throw Amazon on here because they just have so much other stuff going on with their business. So I like to keep it pure. And what I wanted to show you here is eBay's trading at about 3.8 times sales. TripAdvisor's trading at about 4 times sales, and Expedia's trading just at 2.5 times sales. But blended together, eBay, TripAdvisor, Expedia, you're looking at, 3 to 4 times sales. Airbnb is growing at, is valued at 16 times sales. So 3 to 4 to even potentially 5 times what I talk about with eBay, TripAdvisor, and Expedia. And that is why I spent the first part of the video talking about, okay, what's next for Airbnb? We have this massive valuation, not only from a market cap perspective, $90 billion, but we're trading at a very, very rich price to sales compared to our peers in a similar business model. And so I'm wondering, can we top out here? Can we go even higher than 83, 84, 85 million experienced books, considering all the competition out there? And not only that, are we going to be able to continue to see price inflation through the number of vacations that are out there? I think it makes sense that over the last few quarters, bookers have been able to raise prices on hotels and nights, but can that last? Those are good questions. I honestly, leave me a comment down below. I'm not exactly sure. I think I can make, logical arguments for both sides. So we'll talk about that here more in a second. Now, let's jump into the numbers. Obviously, super hard to compare, even from a 6-month perspective, this year to last year. So what I'm going to focus on with Airbnb is this was a really, really good quarter, right? Okay, we're back to 2019 levels on this, okay? In terms of nights, books, revenue, everything flying pretty high. Let's take a look at what they're doing from a profitability perspective. So the revenue that Airbnb actually took in off of this gross booking value was sitting right at $1.3 billion. Now we've got other costs as well. Okay, super high margin business. Take a look at this cost of revenue. This is one of the reasons why investors may be willing to pay a premium for this, because you only pay $294 million for this $1.3 billion worth of revenue. But you got other stuff. You got operations and support, product development, sales and marketing, general and administrative. That gets us to total cost down here at $1.386 billion. You guessed it. We went from $1.3 billion on the top line. We'll call that $1.4 billion on the bottom line. That gets us a loss from operations sitting at right at $51 million. In my opinion, I mean, that's basically a rounding error. When you're talking about $1.3 billion in revenue, $51 million is basically a rounding error. I know it's a loss, but even if it was a profit, it wouldn't swing the numbers in one way or another. So Airbnb is literally sitting on the edge of profitability. That's another reason why I led this, and I've talked broadly about on this video, and I'd love to hear your comments down below. What do you think about the nights booked? Do you think they can keep accelerating this? I know travel and all this stuff is going to keep accelerating, but there's a lot of competition out there, not only from a platform space, but for your dollar as well. And your habits as a traveler might have changed a little bit, and business travel has changed over the last year. I think things will get closer to back to normal, but our habits and the types of things we do may or may not. And then this pricing as well. What is going to happen with that? And that is why I focus so much on that, because we've got to grow the number of nights booked and we've got to keep increasing pricing. Otherwise, this company is just not going to make a profit, period. I mean, we could cut cost, but given the competition out there in the space, I don't necessarily think that would be a very good thing over at Airbnb. Now, from a technical perspective, a chart perspective, I have these big graphs. I just wanted to show you. Look, stocks come out, IPO, they often come up to a peak. We see this with almost every stock, and then they come crashing down. And then they form these, in my opinion, maybe a bottoming formation, okay? It looked like Airbnb actually came down here, touched 130, 140, came back and up here, touched 155, came back down here and touched 130 again, and then walked almost all the way back up to 155. In fact, we stopped right about 151, 152, and that was today. And then we're seeing in the after hours, this thing's trading off a little bit down to about $142 per share. I'll put a line in here, and you'll notice this line is right in the middle here. And I think investors are probably on both sides of the fence like I am. We can make arguments like, yeah, travel will keep going up. They'll keep being able to raise prices. But then the other side of the argument is like, man, that might be kind of tough. And so I think investors are sitting right here at the middle of the range. Airbnb will likely form a bottom down here. On the bull case, if you have Airbnb shares or you want to see these go higher, you need a break above 155. 155 has acted as resistance for this stock for the last 3 months, almost going on 4 months now. So you got to get above this 155. If you get above 155 on solid momentum on this, and again, that's about $13 higher than where the stock price is right now. It's a good 10% higher. Man, the momentum would be in its way, and this thing could run, and it could run pretty hard. I think you could come from 150 all the way up to 160, 170, probably in the matter of maybe a week or two with Airbnb. But again, with where the valuation is, $90 billion, when you compare the valuation to peers in the same space, man, it seems a little stretch. So as we break down here, we're at 142. Wouldn't surprise me if we retest 130 again on this one. Okay, you retest 130, it can go either way with Airbnb, but certainly could be a buying opportunity as you come down here to 130. We see a huge, just a massive spike in volume back here the first time it touched 130. So it just shows me buyers do step up here, less so over here, but boy, the stock made a quick reversal when it hit that 130 range. So I'd expect buyers, if this thing walks down, again, we're in the middle of the range. I wouldn't expect this stock to stay in this middle for long. It is likely going to want to walk one way or another. The sellers or the buyers are going to take over. If the sellers take over, this thing's probably headed back closer to 130, 135 per share. If the buyers take over, we're pushing 155 on this one. And if you break above that, that could be incredibly bullish and could move Airbnb even higher. We'll see what happens with Airbnb in the future quarters. They are running up against a very, very, very difficult comp in terms of its valuation, and I think the upcoming quarters will be very, very telling for Airbnb. Management was extraordinarily bullish on Q3, but investors kind of rejecting that news, at least at the current time. We'll see how things work out for Airbnb in the future. Until then, we'll be back with more videos. Good luck with your investments.